could have a lot more really interesting level shapes, and you could have unique architecture that, like you said, only shows up once, or things like that. You could do things more abstract, not just have things based on sort of the grid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I hope that games start going back to that. I don't know if it'll happen with AAA because of the requirements of, having something be really graphically spectacular, but I hope indies will.
No, and I definitely because CJ and I were talking about this earlier, the kind of just glut of walking simulators, but also indie first-person stealth-based horror games that have come in the wake of both Amnesia and PT.
Yeah.
And I my problem isn't necessarily with the amount, it's the the originality that they have, and then also the quality of each individual title. But if there were if there was a DUSK set in space that you could have automatically go to zero gravity, but it still had a similar graphic style, I would pay just as much for that. There is a creativity to DUSK's design, from the aesthetic to the gameplay, that is loving about what it can contribute to, but still recognizes, you guys recognize that the things that you love so much were innovating, and you guys had to do the same. So it's not just a Doom clone. It's something that I hope. I mean, I haven't played the full game, but I think when it's fully released, we'll be able to stand maybe next to Doom.
I don't know about that. That's I hope so, but
at least next to a Quake or an Unreal or something.
Yeah, that was the difficult line I've tried to walk with it, because I want to make something that's an homage. It's a really faithful homage to all that, but also something that feels very much like its own thing. And that's a really hard line to walk, because it has to be just like these old things, but also just not just like them. And I think it seems like I've been pretty successful with that so far. At least people, I haven't really had any feedback that's like, oh, this is just like Doom, why would I, or this is just like Quake, why would I play this instead of Quake? Because, I think DUSK is kind of its own crazy, weird thing. So that's, and going into episode 2 and episode 3, there's a lot more experimental level design stuff going on that I'm really excited for people to see. It's really creative, because even though it's a throwback to older games, we don't have to abide by the same technological limitations where we don't want to. Obviously graphically we wanted to have it look like it's a software rendered game and stuff, but when it comes to stuff like level size and culling and things like that, we don't have to be as strict, and can do some crazier stuff with level design and big distances and scale and things like that. And you'll see a lot of that in episode 2 and episode 3.
Yeah, there's even the one level, is it Beyond the Gate, where you go through kind of that military barricade.
Yeah.
And there's that really big through the gate, and there's this kind of big open space where the two AIs are fighting, and and that was that felt a little bit, to me, a little bit Serious Sam, just because you had these these enemies, and it was like, oh, okay, which one am I gonna? This guy's closest to me, so I'll get him. I gotta run through here, but at the same time, it had a fresh feeling to it.
Yeah, there's gonna be some stuff like that, but even crazier. I'm really excited for people to see it.
Gonna do another giveaway. Just gonna do this one based on active commenters, and it's going to choose right now. T-Man wins a copy. Look at that. Pass that to you through a whisper.
Sexy.
His name. There we go. Sorry, I have to tab out to do this. right back to the game. So yeah, I think we can revise our plan. Since waiting for your engine to improve, revise our plan and try to play this until maybe 8, and then we can switch to the Evil then. And we'll consider this more of a interview than a full speedrun.
That works for me.
And that'll probably be around 5 o'clock my time then.
All right, yeah, I think so.
Nice.
Yeah, we don't want to keep you for the next 45 minutes or anything. Whenever you need to go, just let us know.
Okay, we'll do. I'm good for right now. Yeah, I think the double-barreled shotgun's my favorite weapon.
No, it's
feels
great.
Good. It feels good. Yeah, and I'm not getting the same effect that I remember telling you about for the demo. There's a lot of head bob, but I'm doing fine.
That's interesting. I wonder what the difference is.
Not sure. Maybe it could have been. I had a different resolution monitor at the time. Maybe I had a lower hertz one. I can't recall if I was using my 1440 or my 75 FPS.
Hmm. Well, I'm glad it's not causing problems now.
Yeah. Moving nice and fast. Doing well. No turning back now. Destiny, you there?
Yeah.
You have any questions about the game? You're watching it for the first time, most likely, right?
I am. I'm actually just kind of sitting back and watching because I'm not sure if it's something I'm going to play, but my husband played it at PAX South and he stuck his face in for a second and we were talking because he stuck his face in and saw it and went, "Oh, is that Dusk?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I want to play, and I'm like, "Well, you can play later."
Tell him how it is.
Well, he's got the baby right now, so.
In the
I don't
yellow
think the baby
room,
plays.
CJ, you'll, if you go back into the yellow key room, and then backtrack through the hall you were just in.
Down. There we go.
So this is something that I've thought about a fair bit as I've tried to develop or started to develop my own little things here and there, is that this generation of games, both on PC and console, the kind of crude, starting out polygons, very basic lighting aesthetic, is kind of the last visual generation that I think somebody would be.
Oh, you cut out for me. I didn't hear
bad. Oh, sorry. Let me try and say it in a better way.
Okay.
Because I stumbled my way through that. Like, I think if, like, you can look at this and be like, oh, this looks like a game from the mid-90s. Or mid to late 90s. The same way you could look at, do you remember a game came out on Steam a little while ago called Back in 1995?
I did mention that, yeah.
I never saw that. That was the survival horror thing you talked about?
It was apparently not great. I do want to play it at some point.
I'll look it up.
But like, if you tried to make a game that looked like, you know, had a similar polygonal aesthetic to Silent Hill 2 or Resident Evil 4, I think it would just look not good. Like, it would look like bad, like Deadly Premonition, basically.
Well, that's with the Moon Sliver. I was actually aiming for graphics that were similar to Morrowind because I liked the feeling those evoked, and I think most people universally were like, "No, this just looks bad. It doesn't look stylized to us. It just looks low effort." So, yeah, there definitely seems to be this cutoff point where people recognize, okay, this is a style, as opposed. And even with Dusk, though, there are. I think the most common complaint about it is the visuals, and some of that is, you know, I'm not an artist on par with the guys who worked on Quake, so I'm not as good at making Quake-style textures. But some of it, I think, is also still that's right on the line of, you know, what people would consider a stylistic choice as opposed to just looking bad.
So you're doing everything on this.
I'm doing almost everything.
Okay.
It's confusing. I do everything except for music, which is being done by Andrew Hulsholt, who did music for Rise of the Triad 2013. And he's doing a little bit of the sound work. Most of it is me, but he's doing some of it. And then Dave is assisting with design, or design is kind of a collaborative effort between us. And then multiplayer is kind of being headed up by our QA team. So it's a bit of a weird development environment.
So do you do all the the modeling and stuff?
Yeah.
What do you use for that? Out of curiosity?
I just use Blender.
Okay.
It's a nightmare, but it's what I know how to use.
Yeah, I've just started getting into not just computers, but also development. I'm working on stuff that doesn't need any real 3D right now, but it's good knowledge to have, and man, everything, trying to learn everything at once seems like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason why I started out with walking sims. It wasn't the entire reason, because I did want to make games like that, but it just happened to kind of work out that I started learning Unity and learning true 3D development stuff with Fingerbones, which was a game where I didn't end up really needing anything except for some modeling and some limited, some limited modeling knowledge and stuff, and just kind of went up from there. But the jump from doing 2D stuff, 2D sprite-based stuff, to doing 3D is massive.
Yeah.
Because it's not just because you're dealing with a whole nother dimension, it's because suddenly you have to know all of these different tools and all of these different workflows. Whereas where you're working in 2D, it's just like, okay, can you draw stuff in MS Paint or whatever? It's like, okay, then you can make a 2D game. As opposed to, well, now you have to make textures, you have to do the UV mapping, you have to do the modeling, you have to do the rigging, the animating, the blah 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 blah, all this stuff. It's a big jump. You're right at the end there, CJ. Okay. There's a door in there that'll end
I see
the level.
It. Nice exit door.
The exit sign, yeah.
Yep.
And there's a lot of the textures in this are kind of a mix. Some of them were hand drawn, and some of them were done from photos I took. Okay. And that was just because I ended up figuring out, well, since I'm doing all of this, I need to save a little bit of time somewhere. So some of them I'm just like, I'll just take a photo of this and then adjust the palette and everything to fit in.
Okay. Let me do a save here. Case. I'm not sure if the chat knows how much games usually cost, but alright.
Yeah, games cost money to make as well as buy.
But I think that goes back to your point that people might misconstrue a stylistic look like this with something that's just low effort, and they're not realizing that this is very hard to emulate. Like, this is still a lot of work to do.
It is, yeah. It actually would have been much easier to do with something sort of modern stylized, like, well, okay, like the Music Machine look or something like that, right. Where it's like, but trying to emulate exactly how UV's warped, with a Quake-style game, or the texture limitations and all that stuff, that's actually harder than just doing something that looks modern. I had to also spend time figuring out, okay, how do I tell Unity to stop doing this thing, or how do I get around this thing to make it look older, and stuff like that. I do take issue whenever people accuse me of being lazy. I'm not lazy. Unskilled? Sure, I'm unskilled in some ways. That's fine. But if people are like, oh, you're a crappy artist, I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
No, and just take a 2-second look onto the Steam marketplace, and you'll find 10 actually lazily developed Unity asset flips. First-person shooters. So
asset flips have done such damage to not just the industry, but not just gamers and Steam, but also developers, because on the one hand, a lot of them look bad, but they've also created this expectation that since it's so easy to purchase assets and just turn on these shaders in Unity and stuff, they've created this expectation that every Unity game is going to have this certain, is going to have some level of graphical fidelity to it, even if that's not realistic for like a single developer doing all their own assets. A lot of those assets on the Unity store are actually very good quality, and they're just put together badly by the asset flips. And they're the sort of thing where you would have a dedicated artist or a team doing these for a game. But because there are so many asset flips with those in them, there's this sort of expectation that all indie games will look like that, even if it's just one guy and he's not using any purchased assets.
Yeah.
It's a shame that the reputation of Unity has been tarnished just because bad games are happening to use it. Like it's a very approachable engine.
Yeah.
So, many people use it.
It's definitely not a perfect engine, but it's not a bad engine by any means. It's a very good engine, and very powerful if you know how to use it. Yeah, we've had some people say, "Oh, I'm not buying DUSK because it's on Unity," or "That's all I need to hear to not buy the game."
Like, well,
that is something that was on Twitter a while back. There were a bunch of people talking about how they just do not purchase games made in Unity, and like that.
Yeah.
That really locks it locks you out of a lot of really good games because you're just going, oh no, I need to know what engine your game was built on first, not what it's about, not how you developed it, but what engine it's on.
Yeah.
I've never developed a game, but you know, I think I know a lot about engines.
Yeah. No, and Unity, coming to grips with Unity is a strange thing. I've been doing some tutorials and just messing around with placements and some of the free assets you can get, and I can definitely see where the temptation comes from for a small indie dev to be like, I could make something that's like an hour long and charge 99 cents for it and make a couple bucks. But yeah, this game is definitely not that.
No. This is this is way bigger than anything I've ever done before this.
Okay, we got a couple people in here talking about the flashlight. They're purists
Yes.
for the Quake gen.
Yeah, let me clarify that. That guy's actually correct. It looks a little too modern, and that bugged me. But Unity lighting is not something that's particularly easy to just make work differently. And I did experiment with a couple of hacky methods for making it look more like something you'd see in Half-Life or Deus Ex, or where it's just sort of a spherical point light projected into something. I tried to do that, nothing really worked out, and eventually I decided I'm just gonna have to go with this, and instead of spending all of my dev time on this one thing that probably only I care about.
There we go, I lowered it. Bloom is gone.
Oh yeah, and the bloom being on doesn't help also. To be perfectly honest, DUSK should be played by linear filtering off, limited palette on, and the pixelization at 3, but that's not for everybody.
Yeah, I just did some of those settings just now.
Yeah. I love limited palette, but Dave was concerned that it might be too much for people and might make the game look too ugly and gritty, and he might be right about that. Oh, someone in chat asked, why not just use Gold Source or the Quake engine? There's a couple reasons. Primarily, I knew Unity when I started this. Like, when I started this, it wasn't like, I'm going to make this, I'm going to make this big, retro, throwback FPS that everyone's going to love. It was just, I want to make a low-poly game. I know Unity. It was just a hobby, basically. Or a hobby project. And it kind of grew into something bigger from there, and by the time it was obvious it had grown into something bigger, it was a little too late to just switch over to Gold Source. But at the same time, it being on Unity also means that there's a whole bunch of really professional grade tools available, so like we can add in effects like bloom and things like that for people that want them. It has, built-in modern networking solutions and things like that. So, it's not, it was like, it's also going to make development easier, and it's going to make it easier to port to a bunch of different systems and stuff like that.
Hey,
so that's
CJ?
that's the long answer.
So go back to the bridge you were at, and then take a left, and there will be a mine somewhere to the right, or to the left, with a red door on it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Oh, I see it. Just found it. Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm running on 4 hours of sleep, by the way.
Couldn't tell at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you guys using any of the... Because I've noticed there have been some on the asset store, there are like sometimes just entire systems you can integrate into your games from asset packs. Just like here's and I'm pretty sure most of these are used in asset, but like FPS pack,
like FPS creator.
Yeah, or I don't know, there's one I've been looking at for an adventure game. But do you guys use any of those for like lighting or effects or anything?
Not really. There's a couple small ones. Like I use a plugin for, serializing the saves. And I use a small plugin for the color adjustments, or the color filter and the pixel filter. And other than that, really not. I try to not use plugins when I can help it. And again, that comes from it was a hobby game to start with, a hobby project, and I just wanted to do it all myself, because that was the whole point. So I tried to avoid those sort of things if I could help it. I think that's basically all it uses plugin-wise. Just the save plugin and the little color filter thing. Oh, and Pro Builder for building levels, of course.
I just want to remind all of our viewers that this is a charity stream for Extra Life. We're trying to raise money for sick children in hospitals. You can see the link right there, extralife.relyhard.com. If you have $5 to spare, we'd really appreciate you dropping it to the fundraising tool we have set up there. Really appreciate it going to kids right before the holidays to improve their conditions in hospitals across the country. If you want to consider that, that'd be awesome. Right now I'm actually going to do another giveaway. Let's hit the bot again, and we're going to roll it. Andre Kampa.
So do you guys have a release window in mind yet?
Soon. That's
Okay.
the only set date. We'd like to have it out by this year. Like, we very much like to have it out by this year, and I think that is probably doable, but we're not committing to anything because,
things happen.
Yeah, things happen. We want to have the game good rather than early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We spent way more time than we thought we would on episode 1, and I think it ended up paying off because people love episode 1. So.
And are you guys looking at maybe any console ports after this?
Possibly. It's on the table. First priority is PC. We're probably going to do a Mac and Linux build as well. And then after that, maybe.
Because, I'd pay, no joke, $60 up front to have this on Switch.
You love that Switch.
I've always been infatuated with the novelty of handheld consoles and the ability to take them anywhere. Like, I played 50, 60 hours of Borderlands 2 on the Vita.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm pretty fond of my Vita as well.
Yeah,
I love it.
Mine doesn't charge anymore.
Oh. Rip.
I actually love the Vita.
I do too. Vita was underrated. Had all the similar
work.
Personally, I would love to have it on the Switch.
No, yeah.
Because not just because I think it'd be cool, but because Switch games are making a lot of money now.
Oh yeah.
So,
all of a sudden, I have a feeling that whenever the next Nintendo Direct is, or the next big conference, we're going to get a lot of third-party ports on the Switch. I think Capcom's going to have a lot of catching up to do there. But this would be a perfect companion to Doom on the Switch. Just something to play through a level, beat your best time, find a new secret on a train ride or an airplane ride.
Yeah, I think it would work really well as that, because I think the world record for episode 1 right now is 5 minutes.
Nice.
And I don't really speed run it, and I can get through episode 1 in 20. So it can be a sit down and just pick up and play game if you know the levels already. And that was another thing I wanted. For me, Doom is one of the most replayable games maybe ever. I replay Doom all the time, and it just never gets old. And I kind of wanted to capture some of that with Dusk and have it be fun replaying as well as fun the first time through.
No, absolutely, and it's so much of the importance of that is in the movement and just the way the guns feel, the way the shooting feels, the impact it has on the target, and so that you could, Doom, I would be totally content if you just set every demon up in a straight line and gave me all the different guns for hours just to keep pulling the trigger, because it's such a satisfying action. And that's a very important thing for devs to get down. Yeah,
game feel is really important. I I strongly believe that anything can be. Oh hey, I got in trouble for posting a link. Oops. I strongly.
Oops. I fixed that.
I strongly feel that just about anything can be fun if it feels satisfying in a game.
Yep.
You know, when you think of something like Bejeweled. Like, there's really not that much to Bejeweled, but they make it very satisfying to match the 3 gems and, you know, with sound effects and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it really isn't. It's you know, it's the same things that devs do to make loot boxes so satisfying. It's that build-up animation, it's the release, it's the big explosion of color, and then when you there's really not that much difference between something like that and the way a solid shooter is designed.
Yeah, I think especially for FPS, game feel is important, and I think that sometimes that's something a lot of indie FPS seem to not put as big a priority on for whatever reason, which can be detrimental sometimes, I feel.
Well, and I like I said, I wouldn't mind if every game was this level of quality, if the market was just flooded with indie FPSs, but there really aren't that many now that I'm thinking about it, because there's you guys, Strafe, if you want to count other things like Ark, but I don't really count that. There's it is such a small market, and I hope it grows.
Are you talking about just indie FPS in general?
Yeah, just like indie first-person shooters in general.
Yeah, it is.
I can't even think of like a military shooter or anything.
Yeah, there's so very few. And yeah, to say nothing of, you know, like retro or arcadey indie shooters, just indie FPS in general, there aren't really that many. It's a big open playing field, really.
No.
Just absorbed into the game.
It's okay, you've got about 15 minutes before the time that you had set to start the Evil Within 2.
Okay, we can end sooner if David, you need to leave.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, cool.
You said about 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect for me.
I will try to finish this level.
Evil Within 2, by the way.
It is fan-fucking-tastic.
It's pretty good, yeah. It lost some of its visual appeal, that I think, from the first game. A lot of post-processing effects and just really cool stylized colors and grain added to that game, and it's just absent in the second, which is a shame. But they did really good job with the visual fidelity overall. It's a great-looking game.
Yeah, it's really nice. Like I was even playing it like a second time. I just started my Nightmare run, and this is my 3rd run through. Today will be my 4th run through the game. But I had been playing just like Dead Space and some other stuff on my computer, and I look over to my PS4 and I'm just like watching one of the scenes play. I'm like, God damn, that's a good looking game. You know, I played through it twice.
I heard it didn't sell very well. So.
Yeah, I saw some speculation out there like saying, and I never saw any sources behind this, so I don't know if it was an insider, but somebody on Twitter had said that it was already like a flop.
Wow.
Which I think is like some pretty harsh diction to use there, but I really hope.
What, for the Evil Within 2?
Yeah.
Well, if everybody would stop releasing their games on Halloween when there's going to be a Halloween sale, they might have a little better time because people are going to wait for that sale.
Well, I mean, and also this year is just like this.
Yep. This week was incredible.
Kind of killer. Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, like, it's less of a cool thing to do to release your game on Halloween at this point, and more of a shooting yourself
like
in the foot kind of issue.
Yeah.
I actually released... This was weird, and I was never able to reproduce. I released the Moonsliver on... I think it was a day before the Halloween sale. I didn't realize it. It was a mistake. And when the Halloween sale started, I emailed Steam or Valve, and I was like, can I get this as part of the Halloween sale? You know, it's on sale because it's just released already. It has a discount already. Can I just get this part of it? And they were like, sure. And I think I had started setting up a sale on the back end or something. Somehow it ended up being on the Halloween sale for like 80% off or something like that. So, but then also for some reason it got onto the front page at 80% off.
Okay.
And so a ton of people bought it. Like it was this massive influx of people and got a lot of sales, and that was really good for the game. I think that was kind of what made it so I could become a full-time indie developer.
Oh wow.
At least I mean it wasn't indefinite, but you know, that's what started that. And I was never able to reproduce that, figure out how that happened, how it got onto the front page, you know, what sequence of events, and I tried to for both The Wolf in Autumn and The Music Machine, but wasn't able to do it.
So, and I'm sorry, I always ask, I have this really bad habit of whenever I am able to talk to a developer, I just chat their ear off about their job for an hour.
Oh, that's fine.
How do Steam sales, like, and this is I don't know if you're able to talk about this, but how do Steam sales work? Like, do they come to you and say, hey, we want to put your game on a sale? Do they let you know a sale is going to happen ahead of time, like the Halloween sale, and you're like, hey, can you put this on there?
Yeah, I don't know how much I can say about it, but I don't think Valve cares at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, you just sign up for them, basically. You get an announcement that there's a sale coming up, and they say, do not share the sale date time, and then you just say opt into the sale.
Interesting. Do you set your price, or do they set it for you?
No, you set it.
Yeah, that's. I'm always so curious about how that happens, especially with Steam, especially being so open to independent developers, and you know, every time any given Steam sale has 500 plus titles on sale, and most of those are smaller indie games, and so I'm fascinated by that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's such a different platform than it was just a few years ago. There's so many games on there.
Yeah, and that's such a blessing and a curse, because it is, you know, we are in a time where literally anybody can make a game. Like, it's not easy per se, as some people would lead you to believe, but like, it is possible for anybody with a competent computer to make something.
Yeah,
but that also gives way to, you know, you have to find a way to rise above, or you're just going to be buried regardless of the quality you manage to achieve. Like, if you don't have a publisher. Yep. Yeah,
exposure is a massive problem. And it doesn't seem to have anything really to do with quality. I have some friends who claim it does. I have one friend who claims that good games will always rise above and will be good. I don't think so.
Like, not to say that it's just like bad games getting noticed or something, because it's not, but there are, like, you know, I think Doki Doki Literature Club is kind of the latest, or one of the latest, like, Steam successes, where because I know Kotaku and Polygon, and I think even Waypoint, they have people who really, like, they pay attention to that stuff. They keep their ear to the ground because they like to support indie devs, and that's wonderful. But there is a lot of stuff that just, it's a damn shame it goes unnoticed.
Oh, this is a Booby novel, isn't it?
Oh, no,
yeah.
You think it is.
Oh, you said Booby novel, and I was like, is Booby like a username for somebody who makes visual?
No, it's
Booby visual novel.
It's tricking you. It makes it look like, oh, it's gonna be this wonderful game about, you know, picking up some anime girls, and then all of a sudden, apparently,
it's fucked up.
It gets fucked up, yeah.
So it pulls it pulls a what was that pigeon?
It's a psychological horror. It's fucked up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why we have it curated. That's one of our filler games if we run out of time.
Cool.
It's super cute at the beginning, and that's part of why it's so fucked up.
Oni-chan, why are you
excited
me?
to get into it.
All right, a new giveaway winner. There you go. You got one. Good for you. I got some extra keys here, but about to wrap up. I just finished the level. So if you want to end it there, right on the end of chapter 5.
Yeah, that seems like a good place to end it.
All right, we're at the cutting mine. This has been Dusk.
The Cutty Mine.
The Cutty
Bonus
Mine?
point, you know the reference.
Cutty Mine. I do not.
Okay.
Anyone else? No? Oh, they don't know.
I feel like it's a deep cut that I absolutely should know.
It's a Thief reference.
Oh.
Yeah, no, not my bag.
Okay. Yeah, this whole level is like I tried to emulate the particular BSP style of Thief and everything, and it's kind of like the mine level, and yeah.
Alright, well, that was Dusk. Thank you, David, for coming and talking about it with us. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much for having me on.
It was good to talk to you about this and your past work, which I'm still a really big fan of. Everyone, check out The Music Machine. I'm serious. Check it out. Make you feel.
I do like The Music Machine.
It is on sale. It is on sale right now as
is.
part of the Halloween sale, and you can actually get it in a bundle with the Moon Sliver also.
There you
Or
go.
I forget how much. It's a few dollars. It's not much money. I'll just show there.
I did just buy my husband Dusk so that he can play Chapter 1 and leave me alone.
Nice.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to
Thank
close
you very
down this
much for
game.
Thank you
joining
for
us.
joining in.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Yep. See ya.
Okay, I'm going to shut this stream down. Everyone watching, we're going to switch over to The Evil Thin. We might take a few minutes to just make sure it's performing well, and then we'll see you soon.
Here we go.